Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunatu Sahaviryam Karavavarai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavarai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Suprabhashitau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Karmanyevadhikaraste Karmanyevadhikarate tava. Your adhikara, your freedom is in performing karma. Your responsibility also is to perform karma. Because everything in the whole universe is dynamic, is active. There is no inactivity. Everything participates in the scheme of things. Therefore, Arjuna, you should also participate. You should not drop out. Arjuna said, I do not want to fight, by saying that he wanted to drop out because the task before him was very demanding and also with painful consequences. It was an unpleasant task of fighting this battle with his kith and kin. And therefore, out of emotion, out of the raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion, the decision on the part of Arjuna was not a rational decision, it was a decision which was an impulsive decision because of his attachments and aversions. He said that all of these are my people. Hamesham, Mamete, I belong to them, they belong to me, I am theirs, they are mine. How can I kill them? So thus, this line of thinking drove Arjuna to this conclusion that I do not want to fight the battle, he wanted to drop out. So Lord Krishna says that no, dropping out is not the solution. You have to participate because everything in the creation participates. There is no nishkriyata, there is no inactivity anywhere. So, Karmanyevadhikaraste, you must participate, number one. Essentially in Bhagavad Gita, the teaching is for a person to participate. Even for a wise person who does not need to perform action for his sake, Normally, everybody requires to perform action because action has an important role to play in our life. Even for a worldly person who has desires to fulfill, well, you must perform actions to fulfill your desires. There are desires in your mind and there is no action to express those desires is a very pitiable situation. So if you have ambitions, if you have desires, fine, perform an appropriate action to fulfill those desires. But suppose you are at a point when you are free from all desires. That is possible. That you have recognized the reality. You recognize the truth about yourself. The truth is that you are limitless. You are a complete being. This is what Vedanta reveals. Bhagavad Gita also says, Kshetrajnam chavimam viddhi sarvakshetreshu bharata. Ye Bharata, ye Arjuna, know that I, the Lord, is the Self in all the beings. The Narayana is the Self in all these personalities. We are a combination of person and personality. My body, sense organs, mind, intellect, that is my personality. By nature, the body is inert. So also the sense organs. So also the mind, all of them are products of matter and they're inert by nature. It is in presence of the person, the consciousness, that they become enlivened and that's how they are able to perform their functions. So person and personality. Each one of us is a union of the person and the personality. What distinguishes you from me, or what distinguishes me from you, is that I have one kind of personality, you have another kind of personality. What we call personality, the body, is a product of karma. Since I have my unique karma, you have your unique karma, therefore you have a unique personality, I have a unique personality, and thus we are different from each other in that sense. But the person that we are, Bhagavad Gita says and Vedanta teaches that the person that you are is Narayana, is the Lord, is Ishvara, is Param Brahman. And therefore, the teaching is Tattvamasi, that thou art. You are Brahman, you are limitless. That is the truth that we have to recognize in our life, that is when there is fulfillment in life. Until we recognize this truth about ourselves, that I am limitless, that I am a complete being, there is no lack, no want in me, only when I recognize that yes, the body is incomplete, no doubt about that. The body, the sense organs, the mind, the intellect, the personality is very small and insignificant thing. Limited in every way. Limited in time, limited in place, limited in abilities, no doubt about that. The body, the mind, all of these are limited. Extremely limited, insignificant as a matter of fact. In the context of the whole universe, this is insignificant. But the important thing is that in this insignificant personality, the one that manifests is a very significant one. In this limited body-mind complex, the one that manifests is the limitless. So this is the truth that we have to ultimately realize in our life. that is when you are free. In fact, we are free even right now, except that we do not know. And therefore we are searching for freedom everywhere. Happiness is our nature, not knowing that we are searching for happiness everywhere. Like the 10th man. The 10 boys went for a picnic. They crossed the river. And the leader decided that we should verify whether all of us have reached safely. Then he asked his friends to stop before we proceed further and let me count you. He asked his friends to line up, let me count you. Lined up, we counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here we were 10 when we left. How come we are 9? Counted again and again, every time the answer was 9. So he called his friend, said, you count, maybe I am making a mistake. He joined the line, his friends counted, same day. All of them were studying the same school, and they were same answer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One after the other, they came forward, each one of them counted and came to the conclusion that there are only 9, the 10th voice lost. For the whole day they searched for the 10th voice and actually they could not find. At the end of the day, tired and disappointed and very sad, they were sitting in the tree, grieving, not knowing what to do now. They were fortunate that an old man happened to pass by. Saw these children were very sad, came to them, asked them, what's the matter? Children, why are you sad? The leader stood up and told the story as to how one of us is lost, maybe he's drowned, we don't know what has happened. We were 10 when we started, now we are 9. How did you decide that you are 9? You counted. How did you count? Let me show you. He demonstrated how there were only 9. Naturally, the old person understood what the matter was. He said, don't worry children, I know where the 10th voice. So now there's a great hope in the mind of these children. Oh, you know where the 10th man is? Yes, yes. Have you seen him? I have seen him. Where did you see him? I'll show you where I saw him. And just count again, carefully, with concentration. So now he has all the hope and the trust that this old person will show us where the 10th voice is. So with all that hope and trust he counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But only 9, where is the 10th one? So you are the 10th one. Similarly, human being is searching for happiness everywhere. There is one place where he is not looked, and that is at himself. If he is fortunate, his mind is prepared, and he comes across a right teacher who makes him see the truth about himself, recognizes that I am what I was searching for. That happiness is my nature, limitlessness is my nature, then there is no desire anymore, nothing remains to be done. So Lord Krishna says, then what? Now this person is not obliged to do anything. But Lord Krishna says, Loka sangramevapi sampashyan kartumarhase. Arjuna, if you are a wise person and you do not need anything for yourself, then also engage in action for the sake of serving the society. Loka Sangraha. For the welfare of people. So throughout Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna teaches action. However, action not for the sake of action. Action to perform with a proper attitude. Because action performed with a wrong attitude can become a binding action. What is meant by binding action? That action creates more and more bondage, more and more dependence. Swami, what do you mean by bondage? What sort of bondage is there? I am free. Yes, you are free politically, no doubt. But whether you are spiritually free or not remains to be seen. Maybe I am not controlled by anybody. I am totally free to do what I want to do. Even then something controls me. What controls me? My own impulses. My ragas and dveshas, attachments and aversions, my lust, my anger, my greed, my jealousy, those impulses control me. And that is the bondage. Therefore, I am dependent, I am not free. Right now, I am not free to do what I want to do because my impulses decide what I do. Even though we are given free will, but still we know that free will is not useful to us very often because our impulses control us. And as long as those impulses are there, so long the mind does not enjoy peace. Ashantasya kuta sukham. Lord Krishna says, how can a person who is not at, how can he be happy when he is not at peace with himself? So it is this bondage from which we have to become free. Now, normally, a person performs actions. But in performing action, there is always a personal agenda. In terms of satisfying my desires of senses, sense pleasure, or satisfying my emotional desires, satisfying my intellectual desires, satisfying the egoistic desires. The subtlest is ego, which wants recognition. Ego wants name, fame, power, recognition, wants to control. These desires, they are binding us, they are in fact making us helpless. So if we perform an action for the sake of self-gratification, gratifying the ego, gratifying the emotions, gratifying the senses, unfortunately, more we attempt to gratify ourselves, more the desire for gratification increases. It is like pouring butter into fire. More I feed my mind with the satisfaction of desires, more desires it comes up with. So Lord Krishna says, "Hey Arjuna, you perform a self-centered action. An action that is meant merely for self-gratification. It is a binding action as much as it will only increase the demand of the self, increase your desires, it will increase your impulse of raga, dveshas, attachment and aversion, and you will be more and more bound." So understand the nature of bondage. Bondage is not something external. I may not be forced to compare with the outside world, but I am compared by my own impulses. They dictate what I do. When I am overcome by anger, overcome by greed, overcome by jealousy, overcome by any of these negative tendencies, I lose my freedom. It's those impulses that decide what I do. So what is freedom? Freedom from all impulses. Freedom from all desires. Inasmuch as a desire is a symptom of an inner lack or a want. So freedom from all lack, freedom from all want, freedom from all sense of smallness or limitation or inadequacy. That freedom can come when you recognize that you are what you are searching for. You are limitless. You are a whole and complete being. In recognition of that reality about myself, I become free from all personal agenda. Because a wise man is free from all personal agenda. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogadan atmanyevatmana tushtaha sthita prajna tadochyate. This person is called sthita prajna, a man of abiding wisdom. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanogadan. Hey Partha, hey Arjuna, when all the desires in the mind have gone away, Atmanyevatmana tushtaha, when he discovers a complete satisfaction with his own self, when one is totally satisfied with oneself, and therefore there is no desire left now for satisfaction because I am the source of satisfaction. When I myself become the source of satisfaction for myself, when I myself become the source of happiness for myself, then what do I need? All the needs are over. Person becomes free from all needs, all demands, all expectations. He is a free person. So Lord Krishna says, even a person like that, who does not need to do anything for himself, should still engage in activity for the well-being or welfare of others who are needy. Lord Krishna so gives his own example. Look Arjuna, name parthasya kartavyam Trishulokeshu kinchana nanavaptam vaptavyam vata evacha karmani. Ye Partha, here you look at me. I'm the Lord of the three worlds. I have nothing to achieve. There is nothing that doesn't belong to me. The whole universe is mine. There is nothing that I have to accomplish. Lord Krishna says. Vata evacha karmani. And still you see me active. See you participating? And then we take my example. So Arjuna, Karmanyevadhikaraste, you must participate. You should not drop out. When you participate with the right attitude. Even the karma that you perform, actions that you perform, are meant only to serve the purpose of the self. If your actions are self-centered actions, then you will be more and more bound because you will be more and more lack within, more and more lack, more and more wants, more and more desires. Therefore, perform action not in a self-centered manner, in a selfless manner. So, Nishkama Karma Yoga. Lord Krishna teaches in Bhagavad Gita the karma, the action, the yoga of selflessness, which we yesterday indicated. It can be simply translated as transforming myself from being consumer to a contributor. When I'm a consumer, who is the consumer? Who always wants to gratify himself. What is in it for me? Before performing an action, this question is asked, the mind asks this question, what is in it for me? You will notice this. Whenever you are about to do something, usually the mind comes up with this question, what is in it for me? What do I stand to gain? Mind is a self-centered entity. So this is where we have to be alert and replace this attitude by another attitude. This attitude that I am for myself, that I perform an action only when I stand to gain something. I and mine. When I and mine, I and or mine stands to gain something, then only I do things, otherwise I don't. So whenever we are about to perform an action, the mind comes up with this demand, what is in it for me? That is called a consumer. So that is when we displace that tendency by making the mind deliberately becoming a contributor. Hey mind, don't be a consumer, become a contributor. Don't remain a beggar, become a giver. The mind feels very insecure. What? If I start giving away, what will happen to me? Where is my happiness? Lord Krishna says, look, there are two ways of becoming happy. One is by, of course, consuming. Other is by making someone else happy. Like a mother knows the joy of feeding. Children know the joy of eating. The mother knows the joy of feeding. And mother being what it is, there is no calculation at all as to whether something will remain with me for me or not. They don't bother. The children clean up everything, wipe out everything, and mother happily gives everything to the children. Her joy comes from seeing the children enjoying the food. She does not need anything more for herself. So this has to be discovered. So far, we have only experienced the joy of consuming. We must have told this story in the past. Once upon a time, there was a battle between Devatas and Asuras, gods and demons. And they declared a truce. Normally they keep fighting, but this time they declared a truce. And decided to celebrate the Sandhi, the peace agreement. So the gods, the Devatas, invited all the Asuras, all the demons, they invited them to heaven for a party. The demons are very happy. They have never seen heaven. There is no way that they can ever see. But this was a very special occasion. And grand preparations are made for the party. You can imagine heaven and Devatas. What is it that they don't have? In the garden of Indra, it is called Nandanavan. All arrangements are made, all tables are laid out with very beautiful tablecloth and all crockery. Everything is there. All demons are made to sit in 2 rows, one and the other. They are all seated. The food is being served. There is instruction. Don't start eating until everybody is served. So they contain themselves. Okay. Food is there in front of me and I don't have, I will still refrain myself from eating. And the food is served. Says, wait a minute, chant 15th chapter of Gita. Okay, come on. When are we going to start eating? Says, before that also, before you start eating, remember this, you are in heaven. Therefore, you should eat with the right hand, not with the left hand, okay? It's alright? But before you start eating, one more preparation is required. Each of you stretch out the right arm. Arm-long sticks are brought, and their arms are tied. When that is done, this is Brahma Arpanam, Brahmahavi, that praise chanted, now you can start eating. How can you eat? Your arms are tied, you can't bend your hand, you cannot put the food in your mouth. The Asuras are so upset, they are angry, they are about to pull their swords. And one of the older demons says, stop, wait a minute, calm down, calm down. There must be some purpose behind this. And a bright idea occurred to him. He says, yes, it is true that you cannot bend your arm, therefore you cannot put the food in your mouth. It is true. But still, you can take the food from the other fellow's plate, put it in his mouth, that you can do. Now these fellows are happy. Okay, very good. So they started now feeding each other. The good thing about feeding is that when you feed, then you are fed also, understand? That's the scheme of things. Upakarya, upakaraka sambandha. You help and you are helped. So when you feed somebody, then you can see the joy on his face. Give him his favorite dish, you can see he's enjoying. And these fellows are really enthused. They kept on stuffing each other, because the first time so far, they only had experienced the joy of eating. The first time that they discovered the joy of feeding. So this is what Lord Krishna says, look, discover this joy of feeding me, joy of me. So derive happiness by making somebody else happy. And that happiness is not a binding happiness, it is freeing happiness. The happiness that you gain by consumption binds you more and more because your mind demands more. The happiness that you gain by contributing, by feeling, by contributing somebody's happiness. That joy wells up from within. It is what we call sattvic happiness. It makes you free. The change of attitude from being a consumer to a contributor, from self-centered action to other-centered action. Simply stated, this is Karma Yoga. In the olden days, this contribution was built into the life of a person. In the Vedic times, every householder was supposed to perform 5 kinds of yajna, 5 kinds of sacrifices daily. Because it was recognized that we receive the contribution of 5 kinds of living beings. We are the beneficiary of the contribution from others, from the rest of the world. For example, all the devatas, means gods. We look upon the forces of nature as devatas. The sun is a devata, moon is a devata, earth is devata. All elements are devatas. They constantly contribute into my life. Without them, I cannot survive. The sun gives me light, illumines the objects, and then only I can see. The sun gives energy, which is what, in fact, I am made up of. So also the moon, so also the earth, so also the water. All of them serve. They do paropakara, they serve others without making any demands. As human being, I am the beneficiary of the contribution that all these gods are making in my life. And therefore, I am indebted to them. I am indebted to Devatas. How about my parents? How about the ancestors? Well, they are the direct contributors in my life. My parents have given me this body, nurtured it, nourished it, and I am what I am because of them. I am carrying the blood from all my ancestors into my body. All the traditions and samskaras are all there in me because of them. And therefore, I am indebted to my parents and my ancestors. Thirdly, the contribution in my life of my teachers. The teachers of present as well as the past. The teachers, the thinkers, the scientists, the writers, all those who devoted their life to the pursuit of knowledge. They have given me this whole storehouse of knowledge, from which I am freely drawing. Had it not been there, we would start from square one. We have to reinvent the wheel if this is not done. As Swami says, we are standing on the shoulders of giants. We can look far beyond. Not that we are that high, at all. We are standing on the shoulders of the giants. And therefore, They have given us all these discoveries, inventions and knowledge. Therefore, we are indebted to the teachers or all the rishis. The scientists are rishis, philosophers are rishis, thinkers are rishis, poets are rishis, writers are rishis. I am indebted to other members of the society. The farmer contributes in my life, the storekeeper contributes in my life, the postman, the maid servant, the milkman, the sweeper, and how many people, the human beings of the rest of society also have a contribution in my life. I am indebted to them also. And fifthly, I am indebted to the animals and plants and trees and creatures around me. They also make a great contribution in my life. Trees have tremendous contribution. During the day, they give me oxygen and consume my carbon dioxide. They give me wood, give me fruits, flowers, leaves, shade, whatnot, medicines. The trees, the plants, the shrubs, the animals like cows, all of them, directly or indirectly, contribute in my life. Some of them directly contribute, others indirectly contribute. But they tell us that every living being in the universe, everything that crawls on the earth, directly or indirectly contributes to my well-being. We are indebted to them also. So 5 kinds of debts were recognized. They talk of 3 debts, but there are 5. Dev Runam, Rishi Runam, Pitru Runam. The debt to the gods, debt to the teachers or rishis, debt to the parents and ancestors, debt towards the other members of society is called Dhruv. So we have to make offerings to fire all of them. In Vedic times, every household was supposed to perform these 5 kinds of yajnas or 5 sacrifices daily. What is sacrifice? Sacrifice is making an offering. Offering to the devatas or gods. Those days, the worship was in the form of making offering to the fire. In the Vedic times, you kindle the fire in the altar, invoke the devatas, and make offerings. These days we may not do that much. These days we have an altar at our home. We perform puja, make offering. This is the offering to the Devatas. Offering to the rishis. By pursuing the knowledge, by learning and teaching. And also by contributing to the passing on of the knowledge. Rishiruna. Because the rishis or sages will be happy if we learn what it is that they have created. They have given us the scriptures and texts. They'll be happy if we study them. They'll be happy if we also participate in continuing the tradition of teaching. So not only should teaching stop with us. Today somebody was singing that you received all the knowledge all right, but did not teach, so what's the use? No. Not only we should learn, but pass on the knowledge. Or we should also participate wherever the passing of the knowledge takes place. Our offering to the rishis, offering to parents and ancestors, serve the parents, serve the elders, make offerings to departed souls. That is the offering to the parents or ancestors. Offering to other needy human beings. Give them food, give them clothing, give them shelter. न कंचन वसतो प्रत्याचक्षित तद्व्रतम. Taittiriya Upanishad says that when somebody seeks a shelter from you, do not turn that person away, that provide him the shelter. Tadvratam, that's your vow. Tasmad yaya kaya chavidaya bhakvannam prapnuyat. If somebody comes to your home hungry, feed him. And for that purpose, you must store enough amount of food in your house, enough amount of grains. Yaya kaya chavidaya bhakvannam prapnuyat. By any means, may you acquire a lot of grains so that you can feed those who are hungry. Aradhyasman namitya chakshade. The Upanishad says that whenever a householder cooks food, he has this attitude that I am cooking food for the hungry people. So thus, offering food, offering clothing, offering shelter to the needy is a dhru yajna, our offering to other human beings. And bhuta yajna, being offerings to other living beings, other creatures. Those days used to perform a yajna every day. But today you can contribute in whichever way you want, that you can. For the welfare of other living beings. Therefore in India, contributing for the welfare of the cows and other animals also. See, the point is that all these also should have a place in your life. From whatever you earn, a share must be given to all these first. And then you should partake of whatever remains. That's the contribution. Yagnishishtashanasantah muchyante sarvakilmishahi. Lord Krishna says, Yagnishishtashanah. The one who partakes of what is left over after making offerings to all of them. They are like stakeholders in our life. Call them shareholders or stakeholders. So just as when a corporation makes profit, then the part is distributed to shareholders, is it not so? And so also Bhagavad Gita says, from whatever you make, whatever you earn, understand that all of it does not belong to you. You are what you are on account of the contribution that all these are made in your life. And if you really analyze the process process by which you make money or earn money. You realize that in there also they have a contribution to make. Therefore, they are stakeholders in your life. They have a share in what you get. Yajna Shishtasana. Therefore, making offering first to them and then partaking of whatever remains. This was what was taught in the Vedic times. Thus, it was a duty of every householders to make these 5 kinds of offerings every day. And therefore, the spirit of contribution was already built in. Meaning that they need not do anything else. Because when they make these 5 offerings, they are contributing. Of course, this is nothing but returning the debt. When I make offerings, or when I contribute, I'm not obliging anybody. I'm only obliging myself because I'm returning what it is that they have given me. I'm only repaying the debt. In that spirit, not a spirit of obliging somebody, the spirit of being obliged. They say that, when can you give to somebody? When somebody is ready to receive. Otherwise you can't give. The other day, I invited somebody who was a leader of a community. I said, look, we want to make a donation. He said, Swamiji, we don't need donation. We have enough. And what can you do? You cannot even make a donation, the fellow is not ready to receive. That you can make an offering also is a privilege. That somebody is ready to receive. The person who receives, his hand is lower than the person who gives. Only when somebody is ready to have his hands lower, only you can give. So a contributor also does not feel proud. There is no pride in that. There is no sense of arrogance in that. There is no attitude that I am obliging somebody. It is all humility. That it is my privilege that I have an opportunity to offer. Karmanyevadhikaraste. Yojana, it is your adhikara, your duty to make offerings, to perform yajna. May your life become a yajna. What is yajna? Yajna means offering. In this case, self-offering, self-sacrifice or self-offering. So may it become a channel. You receive and let it also be distributed. So this is the spirit of being a contributor. Your adhikara, it is your duty to become a contributor. So Swamiji, if I become a contributor, what do I get? Again the question will arise. What do I stand to gain? Say, hey, when you contribute, you make an offering, then you are not dictated by your attachment and aversions, understand? Normally your desires, your self-centered desires, your attachments, your aversions, your raga, your dvesha, your greed, that's what normally what dictates the mind. But when I deliberately make myself perform an act of contribution, at that time my self-centeredness, my greed, they don't come in the way, isn't it? Meaning that by deliberately entertaining the spirit of being a contributor, by deliberately entertaining the spirit of a giver. I do not encourage my tendency of begging, my tendency of grabbing, my tendency of taking advantage of others. I deliberately tell my mind that you provide advantage to others. Don't take advantage of others, but become an advantage to others. Our Swami says, whenever anybody comes before me, the first thought that occurs in my mind is, how can I be useful to this person? Oh, then he can afford because he doesn't need any use. But this is the attitude. When somebody comes before me, my first thought is, how can I use that person? So thus there are two ways, Shreyas and Prayas. How can I use that person to my advantage? That's called Prayas. There is self-centeredness, there is begging, there is grabbing, there is binding. That gives me a very immediate gratification, no doubt about that, but then short-term gain, long-term pain. When I take advantage, when I satisfy my self-centered desire, there is a gratification, immediate gratification, short-term gain. But long-term pain, because my mind becomes bigger and bigger beggar. And the point comes when I cannot even satisfy the desires. Tadapina munchati asha pindam. Bhajagovindam describes this person, angam garidam, palitam mundam, dashana vihinam, jatam tundam, vruddhoyati gruhitva dandam, tadapina munchati asha pindam, angam galitam. His body has become loose. All his muscles have become very weak. The joints have become weak. Palitam mundam, the hair has turned grey. Or head is without hair or with grey hair. Dashana vihinam jatam tundam, the mouth has become devoid of teeth. Vruddhoyati gruhitva dandam, he is bent from his back, he cannot carry his own weight. Therefore he needs a staff to carry his weight. That is all right. That is not nobody's fault. This is going to happen to everybody. The description of old age and everybody is going to get old. That's not a fault. That's not an offense or a crime. The problem is tadapina munchati asha pindam. Even then, this bundle of desires is not given up. The person comes in a very pitiable situation when there are many cravings in the mind and the body is no more capable of satisfying those cravings. So more you satisfy your self-centered attitude, more the cravings will grow and you will be burdened by those cravings. This is called the path of bondage. That's a Prayas. Short-term gain, long-term pain. That is Prayas. What is Shreyas? Short-term pain, long-term gain. That yes, we have to keep under control our normal tendency of grabbing, of taking advantage, and deliberately make our mind to give advantage. We have to keep under control the tendency of consuming. and deliberately make our mind entertain the attitude of a contributor. It's not easy. It requires vigilance, alertness, a commitment, and an understanding of what I stand to gain by becoming a contributor. That should become clear to me. That by contributing, by making offering, I am the one who stands to gain. Short-term pain, long-term gain. I become free. Every time I deliberately entertain the spirit of offering, I am not encouraging my spirit of grabbing. I am not encouraging my likes and dislikes. In this process, those likes and dislikes, attachments and aversions, my inner impulses do not have an opportunity to control me. They become subdued in the process of becoming a contributor. My natural tendencies of demanding, grabbing, they become subdued. That's how I start gaining a control over myself. That's how my mind becomes free from the impurities of raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion. These raga dveshas or attachment and aversion are impurities which deprive me of the experience of my own happiness. Happiness is my nature. But still I don't experience happiness. What prevents me from doing that? It is this raga and dvesha, attachment and aversions, which stand for all the impulses, all the impurities of the mind. They obstruct the manifestation of my happiness and deprive me of the experience of happiness, which is my own nature. Therefore, what is intelligent living? Intelligent living is such that slowly these impulses are getting subdued. You find your mind becoming calmer and calmer. You discover a peace with your own self. You discover a satisfaction with your own self. You become more and more contented, more and more self-sufficient. You find that the cravings are slowly getting subdued or reduced. As I discover a satisfaction for myself, the need for seeking satisfaction from outside naturally slowly goes away. Thus, in that process, we start becoming free. For my happiness, I no more depend upon others. I no more depend upon the world. I no more depend upon the objects or achievements or accomplishments, worldly accomplishments. I progressively become more and more self-sufficient. So that is the reward. Reward is the freedom. Reward is discovering a self-sufficiency, a self-satisfaction. This is called the process of Antahkarana Shuddhi, the purification of mind. Like a pool of water, where there is dirt in that water, the bottom is not visible to us. Whereas that pool of water starts becoming clearer and clearer as you remove the dirt. How? The water becomes clearer and clearer. So also, as the impurities to the mind are slowly removed. So this is the process of self-purification. The spirit of consumption is the impurity. The spirit of contribution, which is the opposite of that, is the means of self-purification. Self-purification means manifestation of the happiness which is my own nature. Discovering more and more self-sufficiency, more and more self-satisfaction, discovering more and more freedom. Where will it lead you to? To ultimate freedom? Tasmat asakta sadam karyam karma samachara asatto hyacharam karma paramapnodi purusha. Now here Arjuna, asakta san, being detached, meaning becoming non-demanding, being a non-consumer, becoming a contributor in the spirit of offering. Karyam karma samachara, perform your duties. Samachara, samyak achara, very well and sincerely and diligently perform your duties, diligently do what you have to do. Karyam karma, whatever a situation calls for. We said earlier that we are required to perform the roles. In different situations, we will perform different roles. Perform these roles according to the script, according to dharma, according to what is right. Then also there is a choice of what I like and what is right. What I like, prayas. What is right, shreyas. All the time, the choice between shreyas and prayer. An intelligent person, a discriminating person, always chooses shreyas, which is difficult. For that, I have to control my mind, because mind's natural tendency is to seek immediate gratification. I must keep that tendency in check and train my mind to seek a long-term gratification. Short-term pain, long-term gain. It's difficult in the beginning. That's why Lord Krishna says, Yat tadagre vishamiva pariname amritopamam. This process of self-purification, the process of self-mastery, the process of self-satisfaction, self-sufficiency, requires in the beginning a control over my habitual tendencies and deliberately entertain the right tendency, right attitude of offering. And in this process of contribution, we can even say that I am making this offering to Ishvara. In whichever form the Ishvara comes before me, this becomes bhakti, this becomes devotion to the Lord. When whatever action I perform is performed in the spirit of offering to Ishvara. So who we are contributing to? To Ishvara. Who is Ishvara? Ishvara is the Lord. He is the one that is manifest in the form of this universe before me. He is the form of these devatas. He is the form of the rishis. He is the form of the parents and ancestors. He is the form of all the other human beings. The form of the animals and creatures and plants and trees. In that form is Ishvara. Therefore, when I make an offering, I can always tell myself, this is an offering to Ishvara. Lord Krishna says, Swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. worshipping Ishvara by your day-to-day activity. Even if you don't go to temple, you should go to temple in case you don't go. Suppose you don't have time. So you don't have time to perform a puja. Still, your daily life you can make puja. Where every action is like a naivedya to the Lord. Every action is offered to the Lord. And what do you need to do for offering? Just remind yourself, may the Lord be pleased with your action. And thus, a karma yogi is necessarily a bhakta or a devotee of the Lord. In so doing, you get the grace of the Lord, which again helps us in our purification. Karmanyevadhikaraste, you have the adhikara, you have the duty, the responsibility to perform action, and not only perform action in the right attitude, which will be a blessing to you. Thus you can choose. You are given the free will. Not much freedom is given. In fact, we may not have freedom to choose what we do. We may not have that freedom. Because circumstances will decide what I am required to do. We have limited freedom. But one freedom we have, and that is to decide what attitude I will have. That freedom I have. I have not have freedom to decide what action to do. I have the freedom to decide what attitude I will entertain while performing the action. And that freedom is enough. The yoga of attitude. Right attitude is freedom, life of growth. Wrong attitude is the life of bondage. So Lord Krishna teaches here the right attitude of yoga, of offering, self-offering, self-sacrifice. All we can sacrifice is our ego. What's our ego? Ego alone manifests as these demands, expectations, likes, dislikes, attachments, everything. That's what we will offer. We offer only impurities to the Lord. What causes unhappiness is what we will offer, making the way for the happiness to become manifest in our life. So in this one line, Karmanyevadhikaraste, you have the adhikara, the freedom, the duty, the responsibility to perform action with the right attitude. And that Lord Krishna gives us a whole scheme of self-development or self-growth. And we have to initiate this process of self-growth. It does not take place automatically. We have to initiate this process of change of attitudes. We bring about the self-growth. That's how we can help ourselves. This human being has the choice of helping himself or hurting himself. So how not to hurt ourselves and how to help ourselves is what Lord Krishna teaches here. Oh.